Greetings and salutations, malefactors and YouTubers. We're back with the WR400F project that just won't quit. No, it's not that I won't quit, it's just that I have more stuff to do. So we're probably going to be breaking this next video into probably 3 parts unless I screw something up. And then we'll be breaking into a lot of parts and lots of guitar noises. Anyways, what we're going to be doing is, at first we're going to be looking at a valve adjustment, an auto decompression cam, and depending on how bad the cam chain is, a new cam chain. But we're going to do this bit by bit. I'm not going to just yank everything apart. I mean, yeah, while it's open, might be a good idea to go ahead and, you know, pull everything, pull the cam. I'm going to be pulling the cam lobes, obviously. I'm going to be checking my valve clearances, all of that. So, I mean, yeah, while it's all apart, maybe it is a good idea to go ahead and just pull everything off there and do a brand new chain. But, you know, before we throw the baby out with the bathwater, so to speak, I think I want to explore some other options. So I've already got the bolts partially off, and I know when they say taking off the head of this bike, you're supposed to pull your carburetor and pull your radiators, but if you're careful, you can actually reach your top motor mounts here. What I think I am going to definitely have to move is all of this wiring harness. I don't think this is going to be being very agreeable with me. So I'm not gonna have you guys go through the pure excitement of the teardown and prep and disassembly of all of this. We're going to get to the parts of this that are meat and potatoes, and hopefully the wind dies back down again a little bit, so I can not have to worry about schmutz blowing into my engine. A few things you're gonna need to buy before you start taking off on this whole idea of doing your auto decompression cam and everything is molybdenum disulfide lubricant for the cam journals, for your valve seats, for your shim buckets. You're going to want to have that handy. The manual doesn't say to do your cam bolts with a thread locker, but the actual hot cams does. And you're going to want to get a DR650's best friend, conventional oil. Right there in the hot cams instructions, they say that you should do your braking procedure with conventional oil. So I got the DR650 juice, Rotella. Now you're saying, well, that's not motorcycle oil, that's diesel oil. Well, yeah, it is diesel oil, but the big thing you're going to want to see is that it's JASO MA and MA2 spec. It's cool to use on wet clutches. So if you're a man of decidedly cheap tastes or lady of decidedly cheap tastes, this will work in most bikes and not torch your clutches. It's good braking oil. But anywho, I'm gonna go ahead and start yanking stuff apart, and when we get to something interesting, we'll take a look at this. But at any rate, so we really struggled with the plug last time we were doing this. I came up with another deal. What I used to do on the KLX 250, I did a 1/4 inch to a 3/8 adapter, and should be able to dump that up here into the spark plug deal. Like 1/4 inch to 3/8 adapter. I'm like, yeah, so you can use the spark plug bits. Now, one thing that you're going to notice when you do projects on older bikes that have specific tools like a spark plug tool or anything like that is a lot of the specialty tools they list in your manual aren't available anymore. So yeah, 1/4 inch drive, you got a ton more room with these shorter bits. Plug comes right out once you crack it loose. And this way you can also kind of thread it in by hand. And if you have your inch-pound torque wrench, this is 9.6 foot-pounds. So you can do your inch-pound torque wrench and do like 9.5 times 12. And this thing has the rubber deal missing, so grab my, hey, let go magnet. Grab your handy dandy thing longer, and you pull your spark plug out. So we're running a smidge rich. It looks like there's a little bit of a oil blow by on this. I'll keep an eye on that. I just figured I would give you guys a little helpful hint when it comes to constructing a spark plug tool for your WR or other bikes that have limited deal. A little 1/4 inch to 3/8 adapter, and it's like a magic button. Alrighty, so we've gotten to the part where we have the head off, which without removing all this stuff is kind of a struggle. But it still comes off, you just have to manipulate the wires back and forth. Well, one thing you're going to notice when you start this job is that there's a mark on your timing deal in here. I don't have enough light to get a good vantage point. I'll see if I can get the camera close to it. But there's a line that you line up with these 2 indentions on your hole there. Yeah, I don't think I have enough. I'll see if I can get a better light on it later. Basically, if you line it up, there's 2 positions your cams can be in. So if you're going to be doing a cam, like a valve service, this is not top dead center. This is basically non-compression stroke, because your cam lobes are in the center. What you need to do is verify that you're at that timing punch with your valves to the outside. So if they're not quite in the right spot, you take your engine and you crank that bad boy counterclockwise. Woo! So we're gonna get close. I'm gonna see if I can get a good shot at that cam mark. So here we go. H has it close, but there's a line right after that. That you line up perfectly with those 2. I don't know if you guys got a good vantage point of that. I'll try and get a good shot of it. 1 second. Let me tilt this bad boy back. Now there's a line in there that you want to line up with all 3 of these. Now you notice that your cams are both positioned outward now. So that should have your bike at top dead center. The other way you can tell is that you have your bumps. So I messed with the timing of this bike a little bit. These are supposed to be even with your case, and your E is supposed to be on the outside. So we're gonna twist this thing counterclockwise some more and see if we can get that bad boy lined up. So it might be an issue of why this bike seems a little bit off. Always crank counterclockwise. I mean, you can make small adjustments back if you're slightly off. And here in a second it's gonna want to pop over. And if you're having trouble making this work easily, the auto decompression lever is not a bad deal, or not the auto decompression lever, the manual decompression lever. Alright, so you'll notice that our exhaust is on and our intake's slightly off. So whoever's done this bike has pulled it a little bit out of time, or the chain skipped at some point. Well, that's a little bit concerning. Well, we're at least gonna check the clearance here. So in your Yamaha manual, it'll specify a clearance of, I believe, 0.30. I've got to write that down here soon. I believe the exhaust is supposed to be between 22 and 0.30. And the intake's supposed to be 15 to 20 something or other. I'm going to print those pages out before I go much further with this. Alright, let's grab some feeler gauges. That's a 1, it's a 6.5, it's a H1, da 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 da. 0.10, 0.35, 0.2, 0.25. We're going with the 0.25 to start. Come on, feller. So what you'll do is you'll basically stick your feeler gauge in between your cam and your valve. And it's supposed to insert easily. See, that's tighter than 0.25. This one on the outside is tighter than 0.25. So that lets you know that your valves are definitely tighter than 0.25. We're going to go the next size down, 0.2. 0.20. Alright. No dice. So, what's the rule of valves? You want to adjust them to the loose end of the maximum spec. So, loose valves are happy valves. Tight valves will have you burning up valves because they'll be too tight to open up properly. Though I have my suspicions that this thing isn't timed properly since the timing's a tooth off. So I'm going to need to fix that while we're doing this. Alright, so 0.15 on the exhaust. Coming in there nice and clear. 0.15 is definitely good. Well, it's not, I'm not sure if it's to spec, but it's definitely good there. Alright. Intakes are tighter than 0.15. Alright, so our intakes are probably tighter than all get out. And the contributing factor that is most likely the mistimed bike. So, most likely I'm going to have to pull this cam chain anyway. And I bet, since this thing looks like it's slightly off, the cam journals are going to look a little rough too. Now when you're taking this off, crisscross pattern, but try and keep the torque even across the whole deal. That's a big deal there. You want to make sure that you keep your torque even. Even when you put it hand tight, you're going to want to do like half or quarter turn increments while you get everything snugged down. Well, that really bothers me. This thing is like a full tooth out though. Anyways, so we're going to keep on going. When we start working on this deal, you're going to want to pull the cam chain tensioner. You want to check it for smooth operation. I'll show you that once I have it out. And we're going to check and see if this cam chain's in bad shape or not. And I'll kind of show you all of that deal. Right now it's tensioned to a fair degree, but that's the auto cam chain tensioner on there. So I'm gonna log off here for a second and keep on peeling apart more of this bike. So you're gonna want a 10mm wrench to an 8mm for these two. You pull it out, and then when you put it back in, you're gonna have this basically spring loaded, and you just release, turn off onto the screwdriver until it's kind of back into place. And also when you put your cam chain tensioner back on, make sure you put the up side up and that you replace the gasket every time. Oh, goodness. Well, I'm glad I did this now. Well, see you guys in a few. So, got the tensioner out. We have the gasket I need to replace. Just gonna go ahead and toss it to the side. So, next question is, how do you know that your cam chain's worn out? Well, There's a service manual interval. They say replace when it looks visibly worn. Kind of a good rule of thumb is if you have more than a brand new chain is going to be pretty tight. These basically expand by wearing the pins out from shock in the engine. So you'll have around 3 to 4 millimeters of play without the tensioner on a new chain. On an old chain you'll have between 6 and 8. This is about 3/4 of an inch, so that's probably close to about 11. The other deal is you'll have side deflection. A new chain won't deflect sideways like this, so actually it looks like, well, on top of fixing the timing on this intake valve, that really bothers me. On top of fixing the timing on this, we're gonna go ahead and pull the chain, stator, whole 9 yards. So we're in for a little bit of a job here. I kind of had a feeling this was a stock timing chain. Yeah, this thing is just floppy, floppy, floppy. So when I start peeling apart more of this, we'll kind of get a feel for what we're digging into. So it looks like we've got some 10mm bolts on top. I'll grab me a 10mm. Do. And you want to remove these, as it says, interior to exterior, even torque. Another thing you're going to want to do is, as you remove this, you're going to want to secure this cam chain to something, otherwise it's going to fall into the engine. Kind of a good rule of thumb is that you'll want to secure it with a piece of PVC or like hang it off the frame or something of that nature. I'm going to be replacing it, so it's not as crucial of a deal. But before I get distracted with that, make sure this is right. Yep, that's a 10. So I'll give this just a little bit of a crank. Goodness, that's mighty tight. I'm telling you, these things are reverse threaded. Huh. These are supposed to be 7 foot-pounds. Oh yeah, I forget, there is another step to this before we start taking off our cam journals. We need to disconnect our, disconnect our decompression lever. So we're going to ditch this real quick. Oh, goodness. Being careful not to damage any of my creamy bits in here. Try not to nick your cam lobes or anything of that nature while doing this. But to be able to pull your exhaust valve out and everything, you need to take apart your decompression lever assembly first. Or at least loosen it to where it's freely moving. So we got the bolt out of the top. Get the bolt on the side. That one's of reasonable tightness. No! Alright, looks like I'll be finding a washer. I'll get around to that here in a second. And you slightly pull the decompression a bit free. And now you're out of the way of yourself. Now I will admit, I'm a little worried that these these bolts are so tight. These are supposed to be 7 foot-pounds. And this is supposed to be like butter getting off of here. I'm sure it's unloosened. That feels like a lot more than 7 foot-pounds. So, alright. We've got about a quarter turn on that side. Quarter turn on this. Quarter turn on that. You know, I'm starting to think maybe I should have removed the carburetor. Yeah. Quarter turn on that. Alright, now those are pretty much finger tight at this point. It's pretty crazy. Maybe it was someone actually put Loctite on it before me. You're going to have to be extra careful when removing these cams, because underneath this cam, on both sides, well, underneath both cams, there's this metal circlip. So when you pull it up, you're going to want to be super careful that you don't drop it in the engine. Now, if you're pulling the cam chain, chances are it's not a huge deal. But doesn't hurt to be thorough. Just in case you're not pulling your cam chain, you don't want to. Just in case you're not pulling your chain, pulling your own chain. Whew, these are bathed in oil. Very slick. Very slick. Feeler gauges were also covered in oil. Not entirely a bad thing. Goodness, I felt like they were finger tight. Now they're just finger looking good. No, don't fall in there, buddy. A little bit of a Lords of Acid spoof there. Finger looking good. Now, sorry, kids. If we have any youngins watching, if your parents need to explain who Lords of Acid is, definitely have to apologize for that. It's more of a Gen X sort of thing, not really so much a millennial. How people are in present day, I figure I'm not sure they would be able to do much of anything touring wise. Oh, enough lamenting about the state of the world and music and everything of that nature. We have an engine to tear apart. Tell you what, yeah, next time I think I'm gonna follow all the instructions and pull all this stuff off. the amount of time you save not peeling a couple of extra things off, you lose carefully reconsidering your existence and fighting through all the stuff that's remained that's slightly in the way. Yeah, definitely going to use some Ted Lurker on that. Alrighty. So this should just come off. Oof. Some old looking oil underneath that. And see all these shiny bits here? Those are eventually what you're going to need to oil with your molybdenum disulfide. Yeah, a fair bit of resistance getting you off. Okay. So see this little clip right here? We almost dropped that bad boy. So we're going to look at the wear pattern of this upper cam. And this might have been over torqued a bit, so you see a little bit of wear here. But the part that's really concerning, you can buy these for cheap. It's whenever you have worn cam journals on the head. That's when you gotta start really having a bit of concern. It's like, man, my cam journals are all worn out. Okay, come on, feller. It's a moment of truth. Is this engine shot? Alrighty, so we got a little bit of wear here on the head. So this has been over torqued a smidge. But your cam journal over there is smooth. So we might be able to get away with reusing this. That's where your bearing is anyway, so it's going to be a little bit rough there. What's really concerning is when that part of the cam journal's in bad shape. There's no, what you'll look for is like a bluing or a tempering on these being pulled out, showing that the metal is like slightly out of spec. As it stands right now, this cam actually looks like it's in pretty good shape. The teeth don't appear to be overtly damaged or worn off or anything. Same with the intake. Now for this job, we're gonna peel this thing up and advance the intake valve one click ahead. When everything's back together, it should look good. You look for your valves. These are your shim buckets. See if they move freely. Can give them a little spin. Yeah, they move. Nothing's sticking them. And that's why you got to pull out your decompression, because that pulls down that exhaust valve so you can decompress the engine. I'll explain how an auto decompression works a little bit later. So, what are we going to do with you, you little scamp? First off, you're going to want to do this whole deal. Get the valves, the cam chain, whole 9 yards, everything kind of put back together. Run the bike through about 4 kicks after you have it assembled. Check the valve clearances. So I was running about a 0.15 on the exhaust. This might be a helpful time to say that you should get a sheet of paper, a piece of cardboard, and a Sharpie, and write down vaguely what your exhaust clearances were. So I had a 0.15 for the feeler gauge. That's all that was coming in here. So it's important to keep your valves in order. So I'm gonna pause this while I go get a Sharpie, and I'm gonna kind of show you what I'm talking about.